It was time for me to train. There's a very good reason why I chose this superpower. I've never been very good at jumping. So while Ian was working on some design concepts, I was going to improve my vertical to the highest level that I could. I learned several secrets to make you jump higher and also experimented with the crazy invention I found, but I'll get into that in a second. In the meantime, I had a lot of work to do to prove that becoming a superhero in real life really is possible. But what I'm about to show you next might actually be the solution to all of my problems. These right here are called kangaroo shoes.
Yeah, we're gonna go to an indoor running track. Should I ask if I could bring the kangaroo shoes?
The shoes themselves are over several feet tall and are designed like pogo sticks to theoretically help you run faster and jump higher. So I was gonna put that to the test and see if they could increase my highest jump and fastest running speed. So after measuring my jump and run without the shoes, it was now time to put them on. And there were a few things that I weren't expecting. They were kind of like bouncy stilts and really difficult to put on. And once I finally did, they instantly made me around 2 feet taller, but they were extremely difficult to balance. Now 2 feet might not seem that much, but when you're used to the height you are, suddenly an extra 2 feet was pretty scary looking down, because although falling right now wasn't that bad, when I'm running at full speed, I didn't know what would happen.
Whoa, you did it!
It took some time to get used to, but eventually I was ready to start putting it to the test. And immediately I noticed a huge problem which I knew would hold me back. I tested the run and it was a little bit slower, and I tested the jump and it improved a bit, but that's not the real problem. When it came to overall movement, it was incredibly hard to stop and turn around. So while these shoes are really cool, I needed to do better. And luckily, Ian was able to come up with a few ideas that just might work.
I've got a bunch of different ideas about how we might get there.
And he blew my mind with every single jumping method I could think of. Like this robot, for example, is cutting edge technology, but he explained in order to get me off the ground would weigh 200 pounds. We looked at other alternatives like explosive, which is super cool, but apparently could be like slightly dangerous or something, and a few other machines which could work too, but were just a little bit too slow, until eventually we landed on something that might actually work. This thing right here is a rod that shoots out when there's a lot of air pressure, and as soon as I saw this, I thought that it would immediately work. It was super fast, but apparently it was more complex than I thought.
One thing I'm really worried about with this design is if the piston slows down, the piston would move slower than you would normally move to jump. And you could actually end up jumping less high than you would without the shoes. I can design this, but I want you to understand that this might not work.
So basically what he was saying is we could build this and it would cost thousands of dollars, but was basically a coin flip.
Yeah, no, let's flip the coin.
But I'm so determined to become a real-life superhero that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So while Ian got to work building the world's first pneumatic-powered jumping shoes, I kept training. I had spent thousands of dollars on something that would hopefully work, and on top of that, I was gonna have to wait around a month for this to actually get built. But before I show you the results and if it actually worked, I did learn a couple things to make you jump higher in the meantime. It's important to understand that jumping comes from power and speed. The faster I can push myself up off of the ground, the higher I'll be able to jump. So not only was I going to need as much strength as possible to do so, but in order for these shoes to work, they were going to have to shoot out really, really fast.
This is bigger than I thought. I have no idea what's in these boxes or why they're so heavy.
When the shoes finally came, they came in several massive boxes, which made me wonder,
I'm just like, why does this weigh 70 pounds, you know?
But it turns out there was more to it than just what I would wear, because you're about to see this project is more complicated than I thought.
This is pretty heavy. This is like a bag of tools.
Because it wasn't actually complete for a very good reason.
Pipes.
You see, Ian had thought ahead, and in order for this to work as efficiently as possible, it was going to have to be custom fit to me. So while I was opening this up and trying it on for the very first time, Ian was currently on an airplane flying all the way over to Canada, so he could meet me here and finish the suit and get ready to test it with me for the first time ever to see if we actually build something that could make you jump higher than is humanly possible.
Fair enough. There's probably more to it that I don't understand, but that works for now.
Tomorrow was the day that we'd finally get to see. We headed down to a local gymnastics center which was kind enough to let us actually try this. This is where I met Ian for the first time after working together online for months, and he helped me put the suit on properly. I was really excited to give this a try, but like I said earlier, it wasn't completely finished. The tank on my back that you see needed to be connected to the pistons on my shoes, and this needed to be done in person so it could be custom fit to me, and if something went wrong, he would be there to fix it. Each of the shoes that I was wearing weighed almost 10 pounds, but surprisingly, once we connected all the wires, it actually became easier to lift my feet. But we weren't ready yet.
So I'm gonna try on this device. It's gonna make a lot of noise. Are you ready?
It was time to fill the tank so I could actually start jumping. However, as soon as we started adding pressure, we noticed an immediate problem.
Ooh, there's one there. How are you feeling so far?
Well, apparently something's wrong.
After spending thousands of dollars, I was worried this wouldn't work. But the good news is we had a professional engineer there to help.
Let me try this.
I was ready to give it a try.
3, 2, 1.
And at first, I was really worried. But as it turns out, all we needed was a little more pressure and we were ready to go for real.
3, 2, 1. It's something.
The suit was working exactly how we wanted it, and now we just needed to try and test it on the ground.
It's gonna push you probably
Yeah.
off balance.
I say, let me topple over.
And now it was just a matter of how high can it get me off the ground. We started at a very low pressure, which shouldn't even push me off the ground.
3, 2, 1.
I wanted to work my way up to get a feel for it to make sure I didn't hurt myself. I didn't know what to
Oh,
expect.
you're about 10-15 psi right now.
Watch closely because this is more interesting than you think.
8? Like my feet were completely up before.
And you didn't do this?
I didn't do
And
that.
then I had a revolutionary idea.
What if I just jump? Let's try it. Let's put it to 25.
While we were still getting a feel for it, I learned a couple things. Right now, it was just countering my body weight.
What I'm really excited about is when I jump and press it, it feels like it's helping me go straight up, like it's not knocking me off balance or anything.
But if we were to get to 200 psi, it should theoretically get me up to 6 feet in the air. But actually using this suit is harder than you'd expect for a number of reasons.
Ooh, that was big.
That's like higher than normal, I think.
It was, 100%.
It was starting to get me higher than I was normally jumping, but the suit was extremely heavy and there was a concerning amount of power coming from my feet.
You know Mama's just terrified. She's like, oh, you're doing dangerous things again.
And remember how I said speed and power are the 2 factors to jumping high? Well, for this to work properly, it meant the pistons had to shoot out at a 1/10 of a second, which meant if I timed it just a little bit wrong, they could blow my feet out from under me. So as we increased the power, we kept that in mind, trying to be as safe as possible.
You catch me, Puffball?
At this point, there was definitely a lot that could go wrong. And on top of that, we moved over to a hard floor to try and maximize the height of each jump. And then all of a sudden, not one, but 2 problems happened.
I can try to bend them out. Nope, that's not happening.
The pistons started bruising my shins.
We need a
and
new compressor. Our compressor only goes up to 125 psi. If we're gonna break any world records here, we gotta take this up to like 200.
So we had to run out to buy a new compressor, and while we were at it, makeshift some shin guards that would wrap completely around my leg. Because I'm determined to figure out a way to break the world record and prove that people are capable of a lot more than you think. We came back the next day ready to give this another go. We figured we'd keep increasing the pressure until it got to 200 psi, and set up some markers to figure out exactly how many feet in the air I was jumping. And immediately I started to see some huge improvement. But don't try what I'm about to do next. You see, this compressor, which advertised going up to 200 psi, really only went up to 150. So we had to hack it to get it to where we needed it to go. Everything was looking good until we ran into another problem. Remember how I said the timing was hard to master? Well, right now, we were only at 135, getting 3 feet in the air on a misfire. But the landing was starting to get more painful than I expected.
And that was on the landing, right?
Yeah, on the landing.
One wrong landing would dig the metal bracket on the shoe directly into the top of my foot. And over time, it was starting to get much more painful. We weren't even close to 200 psi yet, so we were gonna have to figure out another way.
What are you doing?
We're just gonna take the shoes off, see if it did any damage to my feet. That might be it for the day.
But we may have figured out another way, not only to get 6 feet off the ground, but potentially even 10 or 20. It was back to the drawing board to figure out how to augment myself even better to become a real-life superhero. And we came up with an incredible idea, but it's going to require a lot of time and a lot of money. But I promise you, I will stop at nothing to make this happen and prove to the world that this is all really possible. But this is also a lot of work for Ian as well. So if you guys want to see this happen, subscribe to his channel and check out the behind-the-scenes video. And in about a month, we'll be back with something crazy.